Welcome to the first module in the Get Licensing Ready track, which helps you to prepare for the Software Asset Management Exam 70-713, which was released in April 2017. There are 5 modules in this track, which take you through all of the topics in the exam. Let's take a look at them now. Here are the modules, and you can see some percentages aligned with each module, which show you the estimated amount of questions that there will be on each of these topics in the exam. Each module has a video to teach you the necessary topics if you're new to software asset management, and an exam to check that you've remembered the key points and can apply your knowledge to scenario-based and factual questions. Your preparation for the exam might consist of watching all of the videos and then trying out the questions, or just working through the exams to see if you have any areas of weakness. You can watch the video at any time, of course. So what's included in the exam? Well, we'll start in a moment with the content of the first module, which is understanding what the SAM optimization model, or SOM, is, and how it's used to assess an organisation's SAM maturity. This is a great first module actually, since we'll be referring back to SOM in all of the other modules. Module 2 is entitled Manage Software Licenses, and it takes you through the main activities of a SAM baseline review. So that's collecting inventory and license entitlement information and performing a reconciliation. Module 3 then goes into depth in some of the areas around data collection, and we'll look at topics such as ensuring completeness of data and resolving inventory discrepancies, as well as managing SAM reporting requirements. Then Module 4 is about setting up a SAM program and making SAM part of the infrastructure of an organisation. At this point, we'll look at the importance of securing executive sponsorship and funding, and then how to design, implement and maintain a SAM program, as well as creating and maintaining a SAM program improvement plan. And finally, Module 5 is about managing the software asset lifecycle, and we'll look at managing request, acquisition, deployment and retirement processes, as well as how to track consumption and how to optimize assets. But let's get started with the content of Module 1. As we've said, this module is all about using the SAM optimization model, or SOM, and therefore I think a good place to start would be to understand what SOM is. SOM is a framework which enables you to evaluate an organisation's SAM processes, policies and tools in a structured way using standard language and terminology so that you can benchmark an organisation's current state of SAM. It's based on 10 key SAM competencies, which we'll look at in a moment, and for each of these competencies an organisation can be at one of 4 stages: basic, standardised, rationalised or dynamic. We'll look at these in more detail too, but each of these stages acts as a stepping stone so that an organisation can advance from one optimisation level to another with the end goal of establishing a complete end-to-end SAM programme. Here are the 4 levels or stages that we mentioned: basic, standardised, rationalised and dynamic, and you can see how they broadly describe SAM within an organisation. At the basic level, it's ad hoc. There's little control and there's a lack of policies, procedures and tools. Moving on to standardised, we can see that assets are starting to be tracked. Some SAM processes and tools exist, but the information may not be complete or accurate, and typically it isn't used for decision making. At the rationalised stage, there's active management, where there are policies, procedures and tools to manage the software asset lifecycle, which results in delivering reliable information to the business. And finally, at the dynamic stage, SAM is said to be optimised, where processes are carried out in near real time and a business potentially gains real competitive advantage through SAM. SOM is based on the ISO 19770-1 SAM processes, and this diagram shows the correlation with the tiers in the ISO 19770 model, with rationalised being similar to the ISO SAM Tier 1 and the dynamic level generally corresponding to the ISO SAM Tiers 2, 3 and 4. This diagram also reiterates that an organisation should aim to move from one level to the next. The first 2 levels, basic and standardised, should be the initial focus for an organisation, and as SAM maturity increases, the organisation will progress up to rationalised with the ultimate long-term goal of arriving at a dynamic state. It's typically a SAM partner that helps a customer to assess their SAM maturity and then helps them to establish people, processes and technology to move from one optimization level to another and thus to increase their SAM maturity. This diagram shows the responsibilities of both customers and partners as the SOM assessment is carried out across 3 phases. The first phase centres around the preparation and analysis of the SAM assessment questionnaire and licensing records, and you can see that the partner communicates the process, roles and responsibilities and provides the required materials for the SAM assessment. Meanwhile, the customer completes the SAM assessment questionnaire across IT, purchasing, desktop management and operations teams and assembles records of deployed and licensed software inventory. The partner completes phase 1 by analysing the questionnaire and the software inventory. In phase 2, the partner prepares customised reports that strategically align with the customer's priorities. And then there's an on-site review between the customer and the partner to review and validate priorities and issues. And finally, in phase 3, a detailed SAM assessment and executive summary is presented, highlighting the organisation's SAM maturity levels and recommended next steps. If this SOM assessment was being completed as part of a full SAM baseline review, then these phases would be included in addition to a complete inventory of Microsoft product deployments and license positions and a review of SAM policies and procedures. So, how do you assess an organisation's SAM maturity level? I mentioned earlier that there are 10 key competencies in SOM. You can see them in the second column here, and there is a question associated with each competency. This question is applied to the business, and the answer will dictate the level that business is at for that particular competency. Now let's take one particular competency, look at the question, and then see how the answer is applied to give a level for that competency. A good place to start might be with the first competency, so let's take that. Here you can see that the question is, how has software asset management, with documented procedures, roles, responsibilities and executive sponsorship, been implemented in each infrastructure group? Now, perhaps a customer answers, we've got someone who has SAM responsibility identified for each functional area in our organisation. Where would that answer put them? Here are the 10 competencies again, with typical answers included for each of the levels. Now let's zoom in on that first competency and take a look at the different answers. The red column is the basic level, and here a customer has a project manager assigned, but SAM roles and responsibilities are not yet defined. Moving along to the blue box, the standardized level, they have SAM responsibility identified throughout the organisation, while in the yellow box, the rationalized level, each functional group not only has someone in charge of SAM, but they're actively managing SAM too. And finally, in the green box, the dynamic level, SAM responsibilities are defined in job descriptions across the organisation. So what did our customers say on the previous slide? They said, we've got someone who has SAM responsibility identified for each functional area in our organisation. Where does that put them? Well, they're not actively managing SAM in each group yet, but they do have the people identified, so they would be classified at the standardized level for this competency. Asking the key questions and using this table means that a partner can assess an organisation's SAM maturity for each of the competencies. If there is a mixture of basic and standardised levels identified, the first priority should be to take the competencies at the basic level to the standardised level. Part of the final deliverables of the SAM engagement will be how to plan to increase the SAM maturity. However, remember that although the final goal might be an end-to-end SAM program, organisations should work on moving through one level at a time. We've just looked at one of the key competencies in this module to give you an idea of how the SOM works. We're actually going to cover all of the other competencies as we continue through the other modules in this track. If you want to do some further reading on the SAM optimization model, then this is a useful document. If you download it from the link shown on the screen, then you'll recognize the diagrams that we've used throughout this module, so it's going to seem very familiar to you. There's also some background information about how the SOM was developed and some frequently asked questions that you might find interesting. So we know what the SOM is and how it's used by a partner with a customer to assess SAM maturity within an organisation. In terms of the exam, these are the topics that you'll be tested on. Do you know what's involved in defining the scope of a SAM programme assessment? This is all about the responsibilities of the partner and customer as they set up and work through the phases of the SOM assessment. We saw that a SAM questionnaire is used to help a partner to assess the SAM processes, policies, resources and tools used throughout an organisation. And it's the SOM that helps the partner to do that by asking a question for each key competency and evaluating the optimisation level that the customer is currently at. In turn, that then enables the partner to perform a gap analysis so that a plan can be produced to help the customer to move from one level to another for the required competencies. That concludes our first module in the 70-713 exam preparation track. Your next task should be to take the short test associated with this module to check that you've understood and remembered the key points and can apply your knowledge to scenario-based and factual questions. Then join me on the next module, which you can see is entitled Manage Software Licenses and covers the tasks of collecting inventory and license entitlement data and performing a reconciliation.